Good evening, Poe fans. Welcome back to Poe Discussions with Carmen and Jeanie. And Jeanie, how are you tonight?
I'm here. You can't see
Good.
me visually ever. It's like I'm the wizard behind the curtain. You never
Yes,
see
you
me.
are.
You hear
Yes, you
me, but
are.
you don't see me.
Yes, and in this case, you are the raven behind the curtain with some strangeness.
Exactly. See, that's why I loved this one so much, because it
Yeah,
was me. There is no beauty without some strangeness.
I
So
agree. I agree. So, welcome back again to Poe Discussions, and we have a very special guest tonight, and her name is Mel Grosvenor. So, Mel, welcome, and
Thank
please
you.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I am a lifelong Poe fan ever since I was a little kid. That's definitely one of my passions. I'm also a naturalist by profession, so I'm a birder. I'm a bug nerd. I love snakes and frogs, and just being outdoors. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm into, and Poe is definitely one of the biggies.
Oh,
no,
that is very cool. Well, so you said like from when you were a little kid. So, how early on was like your introduction to Poe?
I was probably 12 or 13,
Okay.
and I distinctly remember there was this thing called the bookmobile that came to our
hmm
school and
Yeah.
sold books. And I discovered Poe through the bookmobile. And actually, I bought two books when the bookmobile came, and I still have them.
Yay! Oh, that's awesome.
One is a copy of Dracula,
Okay. Oh,
Bram
that is
there we
very
Stoker's
go.
cool.
Dracula.
Yes. Oh, I love that
Yeah.
cover.
And that was at the time the biggest book I'd ever read. And I read it in a week, and I was thrilled that I read a book that big.
Yeah. Oh
And
gosh, yes.
the other one I bought because I loved the cover.
Ooh,
Ooh,
that is nice. Oh, that is
Yeah,
really cool.
it's Eight Tales of Terror. And
Okay.
the very first story in here is The Cask of Amontillado. So that was my introduction to Poe. And when I read that first sentence, I was hooked.
Yeah.
I mean, he can write some great opening lines.
Yes.
And, the thousand injuries of Fortunato I had borne as best I could, but when he ventured on insult, I vowed revenge. I was hooked.
Oh
So,
yeah. Yeah.
and so I devoured that book. And then I
Mhm.
discovered his poetry, and I was gobsmacked. I mean, the poetry, wow.
Yeah.
And from there, I started researching his life story, which is
Okay.
every bit as intriguing as anything that he ever wrote.
Mhm.
Um, and I was just enthralled, and have been ever since. Just absolutely from that first line of that book, that did it.
Yeah.
That did it.
And The Cask of Amontillado is one of my in my top 5. I absolutely love that story. I do.
Hmm. Yeah,
it's my
yeah.
favorite one because I switch every time who I'm going to root for this time. Is it going to be Fortunato? Is it going to be Montefiore? I'm like, hey, you very rarely get to find a story where you can switch characters being the bad guys
Oh
Yeah,
and
yeah.
root for them.
that's
And I
true.
Yeah.
mean that's the thing. And the one thing that Mel keeps hitting upon about Poe is that he's such a mystery himself with the writing.
Mhm.
Like you got intrigued with the Cask of Amontillado. Then you found his poetry and you were immediately just like in awe
Oh yeah.
because there was so much about him. And that's the
Mhm.
truth. Even now, and like we've always discussed either on Unplugged or in our podcasts, regular podcasts,
Mhm.
that we always talk about how that Poe's stories intrigue because they affect people differently in different times of their life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
first to, earliest to middle to late, you never know but it just, and he himself is a mystery.
Oh, yeah.
And humans love a good mystery.
Oh, yes. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
we're like the curious cats and just keep digging and digging to find out the root of where it came from. Definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely
Yeah.
so. So
Me-
you go ahead, Jeannie. Were you gonna?
No, I was just going to say, Mel, tell us about how you started the community in Ohio that's dedicated to Poe.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
actually
Give
what
us,
I was gonna
absolutely.
ask too.
yeah.
Well, it's funny because I was, hugely into Poe, and I didn't really have any other friends that were. And
Oh,
for years and years, all I loved about Poe, I loved alone.
mhm.
And I was
Perfect.
late to the Facebook scene. It was kind of something that I just wasn't a real techie person, and I just didn't want to be involved with it. And when I finally did join, one of the first things I did was, seek out other Poe fans. And I
Right.
found out I'm far from alone. There's a lot of you out there.
Yes.
Um, and so I kind of just, tested the waters a little bit and joined some groups. And it wasn't, maybe it was a year or so after I got involved with other groups. I kind of saw how they worked, that I decided, you know what, I could start my own and maybe find some people in my own area that are
Hmm.
also into Poe, and not just share this on Facebook, but we like to do, field trips, go to cemeteries,
Hmm.
go to,
Mhm.
spooky places, or even we've done road trips to places like Baltimore, even though it's not in Ohio. We
Yeah.
don't really have a lot of Poe spots in Ohio. So we went to Michigan. They actually have one of his writing desks at the Henry Ford Museum. So we went
No.
all the
Oh,
way up there to
nice.
that, and then we went to the Raven Cafe in Port
Hmm.
Huron. So, we just kind of started a little group, and I wanted it to grow. And the funny
Hmm.
thing is, as the group started gaining attention, it wasn't so much people from Ohio that were joining. We started getting people from coast to coast and even other countries. And I
Wow.
welcome anybody. I'm thrilled just to have this community. And so, yeah, all are welcome. It's called Ohio Poe fans, but it's anybody.
Yeah. That is really cool. And that was actually Jeannie what I was going to ask her as well. So have you always like are you from, did you grow up in Ohio?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I've always been here. And, it's when I was a teenager at one point, I was like, man, I want to get out of this place. It's nothing but cornfields. But I've really grown to reappreciate the state because you go down into the foothills of the Appalachians, you can
Hmm.
go up to Lake Erie. There's a lot of great oddities in Ohio, and
Hmm.
spooky places and fabulous cemeteries. The second or third largest cemetery is in Cincinnati, and
Okay.
that's
Mhm.
nationwide. Spring Grove Cemetery is really amazing.
Okay.
So
Oh, very
I've
cool.
kind of gone, back to really rediscovering and appreciating Ohio.
Hmm. My husband and I have been there a couple of times, and we have enjoyed all our visits. We've been to Cincinnati, I think, twice, and then been to Cleveland once.
Mhm.
And I think I had told you we are going to make it to Ohio later this, or in June, I should say, the end of June. And so we'll talk later to see if
Yeah,
maybe we can connect. And
that would be
so,
fantastic.
yeah, I would love, even if we just have breakfast or something,
Mhm.
but, and I think you are gonna be at the Poe Fest this year. I think you
I
told me.
am. I'm
Okay.
excited. I was at the very first and second Poe Fest,
Okay.
and I haven't been able to work it into my schedule to go back.
Okay.
And this year I got a wonderful opportunity. I happen to be friends with Victoria Price, who is Vincent Price's daughter. And
Mhm.
she called me up and said, hey, we want you on this trip. So there is going to be a trip from October 4th through
Mhm.
the 14th that she and Peter Fuller, who is a Vincent Price um, expert in England,
Okay.
who leads tours of the filming locations for films he did over there.
Oh,
And
neat.
whenever Victoria doesn't know something, she calls Peter.
Ah!
Like I was actually just with her yesterday. We did a tour of places in St. Louis where her dad grew up.
Okay.
And we went to the house where he was as a baby. And someone asked, well, was he born in the house or was he born in the hospital? And
Yeah.
she didn't know. So she called Peter.
Oh my gosh.
Kind of an interesting side story too that was neat. She said at one point her his mother had a premonition and just had this feeling she needed to go check on him, went up to his crib and picked him up, and as soon as she got him out of his crib, a light fixture fell down and landed right where he was.
Oh,
Is
wow.
that spooky or what?
Oh, that is so, it's giving me chills.
I know.
Oh
So
my
anyway, she called
gosh.
me up and she knows I'm a huge fan of Poe because
Yeah.
I've taken Ohio Poe fans groups to do some of the events and walks and things that she does.
Okay.
And so, we've kind of struck up a friendship. And so this is going to start at Poe Fest. She's actually going to be one of the headliners for the opening ceremonies.
Nice.
And then we're going to be doing all of the tours and everything is included with this. So it's a whole VIP deal. And then we're going to go to the Poe Museum on the actual date of Poe's death.
Okay.
And Chris Sempter is going to give us a tour of some of the cemeteries and the museum. And so there's that. And in addition, there will be some people coming over from Europe. So to kind of stretch out the whole thing, we're going to see some Civil War battlefields. And I've told that there's someone on the tour who's involved with Atlas Obscura. And so
nice.
Victoria said, we might be driving along and then all of a sudden we're just going to go someplace because this person's going to say, you've got to go see this weird thing. So
that'll be cool because that's kind of some of the fun things to do when you do happen upon something. Yeah.
And then we're going to end up in Philadelphia. We're going to see the Poe House there. And then it ends with a triple feature of Vincent Price's films in the theater where they filmed that shot from The Blob, where everybody's rushing out of the theater.
Yes.
So there are still a few spots available. If anyone is interested, I have you would want to contact her at Victoria at vincentprice.com. And we're keeping it small. It's just going to be one van load. So we'll all be together, and I am so excited.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Now, have you been to the Poe Museum in Virginia or the house in Philadelphia?
I've been to both. And funny thing is, years ago, we were in Philadelphia, and I happened to see, oh, hey, there's an Edgar Allan Poe house here.
Yeah.
And my parents took me to it, and I was, I don't know, maybe 13, 14. I don't know how old I was at the time. And I remember it's so sparse because they don't have furnishings, and I had an impression at the time that, well, Poe he was very poor. Maybe he didn't own anything much. I did not know that there was this Poe Museum too. I thought that this was what all of the sites would be like, just kind of an empty shell of a building with some, Poe was there, and that's the neat part.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got involved with Facebook that I actually kind of came across the Poe Museum, and I was like, what?
Yes.
They've got they have clothes of his, they have his hair, they have all this stuff. I had no idea. I feel like an idiot that I did not know, but for years I had no clue.
Yeah, and you don't know what you don't know. I mean, honestly. And when I started looking for Poe things back in probably 2010, 11, and I wanted to go to the Poe house, but just on a trip up to DC, and it just didn't have time. But on the way back, I was able to for the very first time go to the Poe Museum in Richmond, and I was just like, I could spend all day here, but only had like 30, 45 minutes. And so I've been back, again, and just absolutely love it and can't wait to go back.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So that's
the trip sounds amazing. It really does.
Yeah. So hopefully we can get, a few more people to fill the van because it's going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity.
I
And
agree.
I'm such a fangirl. I mean, it's funny because, I've been friends with Victoria for a long time, but
Mhm.
I still watch a movie with Vincent Price in it and I have to pinch myself and go, "My friend's daughter.
Yeah.
How did that happen?" But
Yeah.
it
That
did,
is that's
just
so surreal and cool all at the same
mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I met her through she's involved with an organization called Everwalk.
Okay.
And Everwalk was started by Diana Nyad, who is the person who swam from Cuba to Florida. They just did a movie about her called Nyad,
Okay.
and she attempted that swim 5 times.
Wow.
And her first attempt, she was in her 20s.
Mhm.
And it's very difficult. The waters are rough. There are jellyfish. There are sharks.
Mhm.
It's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And she actually did not achieve it until she was 64. And
Wow.
it's, over 110 miles. And she had to swim 50 some hours straight. Wasn't
Mhm.
allowed to touch the boat or she'd be disqualified. I mean,
Okay.
you should look her up.
Yeah.
But anyway, after she did that swim, she and her coach, Bonnie, decided they wanted to start some kind of a movement to get people out,
Okay.
moving, active, and walking is so easy. Anybody can walk.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's funny. I was just reminiscing about this because I had read Victoria's book about her father.
Mhm.
And it was while I was reading it, it was actually on the anniversary of his birthday.
Okay.
And I was thinking, boy, it'd be cool to meet her someday. But I thought it'd probably just be at a book signing or a
Yeah.
horror convention, and that'd be that. And then I
Mhm.
saw she was leading this hike, like a 10-mile walk. And I'm like, oh, so I grabbed the Ohio Po fans and we went up to Cleveland and
That's
did this
great.
walk and met her. And she was just absolutely lovely. And she found out I was a naturalist. So I'm officially the naturalist for Everwalk. So when people are
Oh.
walking, they're always, "Hey Mel, what's this? Hey, what's that?" And
Mhm.
so it's kind of become my thing. So whenever I can join them on some of their walks, I do, and I'll add my nature nerd side into that. But
That's
yeah, that's how that all
awesome.
came about. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that is awesome. What I was gonna say, as a naturalist, do you ever find yourself like with some of the creatures that Poe has used in his stories and things,
Yeah.
like how like with your expertise as a naturalist, how has that kind of embraced or enhanced like your love of Poe with those types of
Oh,
things?
I credit Poe to something that I learned about an insect. And I've been a bug nerd since before I was a Poe nerd.
Okay.
And when I read The Sphinx, he
Mhm.
describes it as screaming, making this horrible noise. And
Mhm.
I'm thinking at the time, moths don't make noise.
Yeah.
But I looked it up, and sure enough, that species of moth does scream.
Mm.
Oh,
So
that's
yeah,
interesting.
the death's head moth, the Sphinx,
Okay.
they do make a screaming sound.
I did not
And,
know that.
I know there are some times that he'll kind of go a little sideways with his, like you were just discussing the narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym.
Yeah.
And there are some
Mhm.
creatures he describes in there that are straight from his mind, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
you're not going to find any real things like that.
Ex
So there are times I'll read what he has to say on something natural, and I kind of have to go, well, I think he's stretching this a little bit, but that
Yeah.
part was true.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
I
That's
do read it
interesting.
with my, through the eyes of a naturalist, definitely.
Oh, cool. I was with my, family this past weekend because my middle stepdaughter got married on Saturday, and so, kind of like she was doing a lot of things where we were just the core family was waiting to go to the church and things like that. And my oldest stepdaughter and her husband, he's a huge Lovecraft fan, but
Oh, mhm.
Sydney is into birds, bugs, all of these things. And she brought up, because we had talked about it once before, she goes, "Did you ever look up to see if any bug is named after or is named after Poe?" And I said, "No, I didn't." So we started looking, and we couldn't believe how many wasp are named like after different authors and things. And I
Oh,
want to say that I want to say that maybe someone did name, I think it was a wasp after Poe. I
oh,
can't
I'll
remember
have
off
to
the top
look
of my
that up.
head. Yeah, but I thought that was really interesting because she just she kind of sometimes thinks of some things outside of like my interests and just really gets me thinking about some other things with Poe. And so it's always good conversation. And so I
Oh,
wondered if you had ever
absolutely.
looked that up before.
I have not, but now I will, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was gonna say while we're talking, I can look it back up because I remember. Jeannie, what questions do you have while I'm looking this up?
Well, I was also wondering, you were talking about what was the name of the walking club for Victoria? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Everwalk. Everwalk.
Mhm.
Everwalk. Okay.
I'm gonna
I
write
knew
that
it had
down.
walk in it, but I couldn't remember the rest of it. How did she come about coming up with Everwalk and, just that in general? I mean, thinking to tie that into her father and everybody going, really? He started Everwalk and she's
Well, she
Vincent
didn't.
Price's daughter?
She didn't
Okay, she
start
didn't
it.
start it, but she's a
Um,
part of it, right?
she's a part of it. It's funny because most people are drawn to Everwalk because of Diana and Bonnie. They
Okay.
have followed her since the swim or whatever. And Bonnie was a world-class athlete as well. So, they're
Okay.
kind of known in that world. And it's
Okay.
funny because I was just at a week-long Everwalk event in North Carolina. We were walking 10 miles each day for 4 days in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I would talk to people and they say, "How did you get involved with Everwalk?" And I would say, "Well, it's actually through Victoria." And I would go on to say that, she's Vincent Price's daughter, and I'm a huge fan of Poe and Price. And a
Mhm.
lot of them don't know that she is his daughter.
Oh,
So
wow.
kind of behind the scenes a little bit with Everwalk. But
Mhm.
she did do this latest Everwalk in conjunction with a whole weekend of celebration she was doing in St. Louis, where
Mhm.
her father was born. And she just happened to have some time. And so she threw one in there. And it was, to some of the places he grew up and places that he frequented.
Okay.
So sometimes he does kind of throw her dad into the mix with it. And other times,
It's
she
just
just kind of likes to be a normal person that nobody really
Yeah.
realizes
yeah.
is famous
Take the
somewhat.
celebrity kind of off that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Guess that's why I was so intrigued, is because you don't really think about someone as such of a high stature as Vincent Price and children of these types of people, that they usually are going along with their parents. Like they get into the same kind of
Mhm.
field, like they become actors or actresses or
You know,
writers.
it's
Yeah.
funny. Um, she she is not a fan of horror films at all.
Ooh.
Okay.
Actually, does not like them. But she is a fan of horror fans and fans of her father.
Yeah.
So she kind of discovered that there are so many people who just love him.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than sharing that joy with others. And she's, very happy to talk about him and tell stories and keep his legacy alive. And
Absolutely.
he's so tied with Poe that it's been a great way for me to kind of network and meet other people and
Mhm.
kind of get them into the group as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
that is really awesome. So I did find it. So there is a wasp called, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, but it's Uriolellaps space Poei, and then it says Geralt 1915,
Hmm.
and it's named after Poe.
Huh.
Uh, and it says genus Uriolilips, and again, may be butchering the
Yeah.
name, was subsequently synonymized with Dipara, is what it says in the little note. And so, yeah, you'll have to check that out.
I will. I'm intrigued. I am very intrigued. I want to know why. Where's the connection
Yes.
there?
Exactly. Oh, I know it.
You would think it would be like a gold beetle or,
I
something like
know.
that, but
Yeah. But
that's
it
cool.
yeah, it was like a few people decided all these authors are going to be wasps, and I'm like, what is this? Is weird.
Yeah, that is. Huh.
Yeah.
In some way it is, but in other ways, if there's something niggling in the back of my brain here, hold on,
All right.
that I've read and researched many, many, many years ago, that something about the wasp and the community of a wasp
Okay.
relates to the prolificness, was it prolificness or prolifercy or whatever? Anyway, to the word vomit, let's just use that one, of most
You never know what Jeanie is going to come out of, what is going to come out of her mouth.
yeah, you never know. But I mean, think about it, a wasp and its nature and its, I remember growing up with wasps and wasp nests, and you're like, okay, they're everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
At a certain time of the year. So, I mean, and it could just be that nobody likes wasps enough, so they just decide, hey, let's decide to name them after authors. Maybe we can get some good publicity going.
That's
Could be.
true. That's true. You never know. You never
Yeah.
You
know.
know, it just is the way things go. So, okay, sorry, rhyme. All right, okay.
Oh my
Anyway,
goodness. Well,
I mean,
what?
it could just be an entomologist who really likes authors and literature, and
Yeah.
that's what he wanted to do. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it was very interesting looking at that entire list because I started scrolling through and then I was like, hold on, I'm going to do like a find in page or control F search to just find Poe to see if he comes up. And because there were a ton of moths named after famous people as well. And so it
Oh,
was just really, again, very interesting.
huh.
So who
That is cool.
knows?
that
Well,
makes sense. It's
if I
Mothman.
ever discover a new insect, I'll throw Poe in there somehow.
Yay!
That would be fun.
That would be. That would be totally fun.
Mel, earlier, Carmen and I were talking that when we last time we visited Cincinnati, we went to this pizza joint that actually has a
Yes.
pizza named
Dewey's.
Poe.
Dewey's.
Oh
Pizza.
yes, Dewey. I love the
Yes.
Edgar Allan Poe pizza.
Yeah, it was
That's a
delicious.
that is a
Yes.
favorite of mine.
We
Yes.
were fans too, but we were trying to get them to explain to us how it got its name.
Hmm.
Buddy in the restaurant could tell us why they had Edgar Allan Poe pizza.
And we even talked to the manager and she was like, I think it could be that one of the owners actually like is a Poe fan and maybe that's how it came to be. And so, but she was like, I really don't know. And we were hoping maybe you might have some insight
I
or
wondered that same thing, and I've always kind
Mhm.
of wondered it's kind of got a black and white look to it,
Yeah,
and I don't know if maybe that has some inspiration. And they have other pizzas too with
yeah.
names of other people, so
Mhm.
it may just be, I don't
They
know.
out of a hat.
I wish I could say I don't know, but yeah,
Okay.
it must have been somebody who was a fan along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, we thought that was really, really cool, and,
Hmm.
because one of the things I do is everywhere I go, I look for a Poe connection, and so
Yeah,
having the Dewey's Pizza made it very easy to find one in
yeah,
Ohio, and the pizza
yeah.
was delicious.
Oh, it is. We've done several Ohio Poe fans cemetery walks followed by Dewey's Pizza to have the
Nice.
Edgar Allan Poe pizza.
Yeah,
So,
very
yeah, that's
cool.
a thing.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
When you, do your cemetery walks, like, are you like the tour guide and, like, talk about the historical aspects of some of the people
If
there?
if I'm familiar enough with it. We've also
Okay.
gone to tours that are offered by other cemeteries that, they do the tour. We just join and
Mhm.
see what they do. We've done lantern tours.
Oh, nice.
Actually, Victoria and I co-led a lantern walk this past October in my hometown.
Oh,
So,
cool. Oh, very
yeah, that was
cool.
fun. And then I also throw in the naturalist stuff too. So we're also looking for bats and owls and
Okay.
whatever's out there.
Oh,
But
that's
it's been a
nice.
little of both. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of different activities or events have you like forecasting for the future for this year?
Well, this Saturday I will be at a steampunk convention in Louisville, Kentucky, presenting on Poe. So
Nice.
it's called Steampunk in the Shadows, and
Mhm.
that my presentation happens to be in the Edgar Allan Poe room.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Cool.
12 o'clock this Saturday, if anyone's in the area.
Okay.
And if you are in that area, I highly recommend Cave Hill Cemetery. Very cool. And a neat little connection. The last time I went there, it was because I found out that the man who married Poe in Virginia is buried there.
Oh,
And
okay. Yes.
yeah, so we went and found his grave, and it's also got some famous people like Colonel Sanders and Muhammad Ali.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's coming up this Saturday.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, I'll start up my cemetery walks again. Where are you going to be in June when you come to Ohio?
We're gonna start out. We're leaving on, let me give you a date. We are leaving on Friday the 21st and getting into Cincinnati. And
Ooh.
then we're going to, like, if I was able to meet you, it would be like Saturday morning, like for breakfast or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And then we're like, because we're leaving there and going kind of around through Akron, I think Cleveland. We're going to Willoughby because I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan. And
Okay.
and there's somewhere else, and then we're going up into upstate New York. And so,
Oh, wow.
and we may end
Okay.
up, I think we're gonna do Sleepy Hollow on the 26th. I'm looking at the
Uh,
calendar.
I was
So,
so bummed last year. Victoria led a lantern hike in Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, but I
oh,
was so swamped with things at work I couldn't get away. I was like,
oh gosh,
oh, I want to.
that would have been
They
amazing.
said it was really funny too because while they were out there, somewhere nearby was a haunted attraction, and you could
Oh,
hear the sounds from it as you're going through Spooky Hollow with your lantern or Sleepy Hollow.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, that
Oh,
would have been
wow.
so much fun.
Well, and as I was looking at the, things to see there, the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, what does lantern tours just
Yes.
pretty decently regularly, but more in the fall. And I can
Hmm.
understand with the heat and everything. But right now they're only doing them on the weekends. I think it's on Saturdays. And so I
Mm.
was kind of bummed because I was like, that would have been amazing to be able to do because we'll be there. We're going to stay overnight. So,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah,
but
maybe
there's
sometime.
always, yeah, yeah, there's always other times.
Hmm.
Or you could go by yourself and really be spooky.
Oh yeah,
Yes, that is very true. That is very true. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, so we don't see Carmen in the next episode.
We'll know what happened.
the headless horseman got me.
There you go.
She was the closest thing to Ichabod Crane that he could find.
Oh my goodness.
So another event that it's funny, it just kind of fell in my lap, so to
Uh-huh.
speak. There was a evening in a town called Waynesville called Night of Poe. And when I
Ooh.
first saw things about that, I thought, oh, this isn't going to be Waynesville, Ohio. This will probably
Mhm.
be like Waynesville, Virginia, or Waynesville, Maryland, or Waynesville, somewhere where Poe lived,
Mhm.
and it happened to be Waynesville, Ohio, which is funny because I used to work as a park ranger there. And
Oh,
so I knew that town. It's not far from me. And I wasn't aware of them. They weren't aware of us, but we now are going to be involved with it quite a bit. And what it
okay.
was it's a neat little downtown with lots of antique stores and just cute shops. And they did this in January, not post birthday weekend, which I was kind of
Okay.
glad because it kind of spreads everything out a little bit
Yes.
and gave me
Yes.
something else to look forward to after Poe's big birthday weekend stuff.
Yeah.
And people dressed up and they had scavenger hunts in the stores and just all sorts of fun stuff. So we're going to be, Ohio Poe Fans is definitely going to have a bigger presence with that this
Okay.
next time. They had a great turnout, even for a kind of rainy day in January. So it's only going to get bigger and better. So I was just
Okay.
thrilled to pieces that was like right in my area, you know?
That is cool. I'm writing it down because, any time that, we can travel, we do. And, just even a one day event, sometimes it's fun to just travel to
Mhm.
for if it's on the weekend or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah, it's definitely one of my things now it's going to bring in more people. And yeah,
Yeah.
definitely got a lot of new folks joining the group after that night, and
Oh, great. Oh, that's
costumes were
great.
fantastic.
Hmm.
Everybody just had a great time. So can't
Oh,
wait to
that's
see how that grows.
oh, absolutely. So now, do you do any kind of event for Halloween, around
Um,
Halloween?
Halloween for me at work is a very, very busy time. We do a thing called pumpkin glow. We
Okay.
used to carve pumpkins. And then when COVID hit, we kind of lost a bunch of the volunteers that we would have had carving them. We didn't have anything else to do, so we got a bunch of fake pumpkins and painted on them with UV reflective paint.
Oh,
So then you
neat.
go through the woods with a UV flashlight and look for these pumpkins out in the woods. And I've painted hundreds of them. Of course, several are Poe.
Yeah.
There are lots of really cool ones. So I get really busy that time of the year,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Well, not unfortunately, because I love
Yeah.
it too. I
Oh,
want,
yeah, that sounds fun.
1 October is not enough.
No,
And it's
no.
like every night of October, I have 20 things I'd like to do in addition to
Mhm.
the one thing I'm doing. And you
Yes.
just can't spread yourself thin enough.
I
So, yeah.
I agree with that. Some friends of mine had a party during Valentine's one year and called it Second Halloween instead of Valentine's, and it's like, yeah, we need to have more of that.
Yeah, it's funny. My Halloween, I used to just wait until it was October, then I'd
Mhm.
decorate.
Yeah.
And then I kind of pushed it back to I'll do it the very beginning of fall. And
Mhm.
now I start decorating in August. My
Oh,
thought
that's
is it's
awesome.
my favorite time of the year.
Yeah.
The stuff starts coming out in the stores right after the 4th of July.
Oh, it
Like
does. Yeah.
I have like stores I know that get their stuff out that early. And I
Yeah.
love Michael's because the past couple years, Michael's has
Yes.
had a great selection of Poe things.
Yeah, they have.
And
They
so
have.
I kind of hit those shops, and then there's another wave later on closer to October. And it's like, okay, then I'll hit these shops. So yeah, I just love it.
Yeah.
It's the best time of the year in my opinion.
I agree. The weather's nice and just the leaves turning.
Mhm.
You can't beat it.
No, no, you can't.
All right,
Definitely not.
Jeannie, what other questions do you have?
I think she's answered pretty much everything. I mean, she talked about her first introduction to Poe for us, which was Cask of Amontillado, which we love, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And so, my guess, one of the final questions I would like to know
Hmm?
is, do you write yourself? Have you published anything that's poetic, or are you
I
inspired to?
can't really say that I have. I have dabbled a little bit with poetry, but I've never really tried
Mhm.
to, tried to get anything published. I've
Mm.
done some post artwork, but it's mostly just for friends and,
Okay.
that type of thing. So no, I haven't. Maybe I'll have to consider that.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well,
Wonderful.
so many of our community and the people that we've met over the past few years,
Mhm.
it seems that we start with this obsession. We might as well just say what it is. Our
Sure.
obsession with Poe. And it's like it triggers something in us
Mhm.
to want to emulate or just let ourselves free.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
Yeah.
oh, it's like, okay, so he had a lot of stuff going on in his life and it was tragic, but he still decided that he could do something wonderful. So
Mhm.
Yes.
it's very inspirational. So I
Yeah.
guess that's why
Yeah.
most of the time it's like most people we meet, I'm like you. I've dabbled years and years, but I don't have the energy. I'm just going to say it. I don't have the energy to put up with publishers or to cater to what other people want, because it's all about what I want in my work. So
Sure. Yeah, and for me, my love of Poe, it really is, it gets even bigger when I share that with others.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the artwork that I've made, it's for other people.
Yeah.
And a kind of a funny story. The first person in the Poe world that ever reached out to me was Jeff Jerome. He's the curator emeritus of the Baltimore Poe House and Museum. And he invited me over, and he did a tour of the catacombs and, you know, Poe's grave and all that great stuff. And then the first year of Poe Fest, I was returning to Baltimore, and he does a great, you know, he does celebrations on Poe's birthday and his death anniversary, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I was going to make him a little card, just a thank you card, kind of a little bit of a donation, because I know he needs, you know, uses money for the cake and the actors and, you know, the production that he puts on. So I thought about just making a card, and I thought, you know what, I can do better than this. So I made a card that was shaped like a coffin, and it said Poe on the front with a raven, and you open it up, and it was a pop-up card, and Poe popped out and handed you the check. And
that is awesome.
So this story gets better. So when I went to Baltimore, he was doing his Death Day celebration thing at the Poe Monument, and he was talking about people in the crowd. You know, this guy came all the way from Chicago, and this guy came all the way from Texas. And then he started talking about some guy that he knew through Facebook, very knowledgeable about Poe. And I'm just thinking he's talking about some guy, and I see him pulling out this card, and I'm like, that's my card. And I'm thinking, oh, you know, he must have thought Mel was a dude, and he's probably got me mixed up with someone else. And I was just crestfallen.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought there was a mistake. And I'm like, do I say something? And then he looked right at me. He said, no, Mel, I'm talking about you. And I was like, you know, because I really thought he had messed that up. And then he told me he had something for me, which this just blew my mind. He actually gave me a chunk of the house that Poe lived in Baltimore.
Oh my gosh.
Some of the plaster, they had to kind of redo some areas of it. So I actually have a chunk. You can see the horsehair in it. It's really amazing.
That's so cool.
So I've made it a tradition every year to make him a different card, and it feels like every time I outdo myself. So I think the next year it was like a big foldable thing that was his theme when he was doing something with the Fall of the House of Usher.
Okay.
So I actually watched my Vincent Price video and took photos of scenes from the movie. And then I turned it into like this thing that starts out with a picture of the house.
Yeah.
And that opens up. And then inside there's other things, and you're just peeling the layers. You get deeper and deeper, and it gets, you know, more and more grisly. And then at the very end, you've got the conflict between Madeline and Roderick.
Yeah.
And, you know, just had all these extra flaps that opened up. He didn't even find the check. Like, it was like there were so many hidden things he didn't know where it was. So that one was good. I did one time for the Black Cat. This was great. I found these tiny Legos that I could make a brick wall with. And I got a card that you would open up, and you could pre-record a sound. So when this card is open, all he saw was a brick wall, but you could hear a cat. And he had
that is awesome.
Take the bricks off. And then I had drawn a really gruesome, you know, the woman laying there dead with the cat on the back. And so that one was a lot of fun. I did one time. This killed me. I made what looks like a volume of a book of Poe's tales, and it looked old. I think I actually took a photo of a real old edition. And then I found this paperboard book, and I just glued it all on there. So it looked like an actual book. And I just filled it with little teeny pictures of Poe. So it's like potpourri is what I called it. And I did not intend for this to happen, but he got that book, and he opened it in his car like a book. And all
Oh,
that confetti went everywhere. He said, for months he kept finding little pictures of Poe. So, so
that
yeah,
is great.
I have a lot of fun with. I did one once, those cards you open and the butterflies fly out.
Oh, yeah.
I modified some and made them into ravens. So you open it up and the ravens flew out.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah,
Oh, that
so
is so cool.
definitely Poe inspires my
Yeah.
creativity.
Yeah.
And I make gifts for my friends that are, Poe related. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I mean, I don't really make things to sell or anything like that. To
Hmm.
me, the joy is in sharing it with people that also appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I think that kind of like Jeannie was talking about with so many people, it starts with the obsession and just getting hooked into his
Hmm.
writing.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like he's really a muse for so many people
Oh
and
yeah.
different outlets of different mediums of art that come out.
Hmm.
And
Oh
it's a
yeah.
joy to, see everyone's versions of or adaptations of what they create. And
Absolutely.
it's so cool.
Absolutely.
Well, Mel, one last question we always ask everybody we talk to is, and I know Cask of Amontillado is very high on your list, but do
Hmm.
you have another favorite story or poem that
Oh
means a lot to you? And I
boy,
know
that's
it's
a
hard. It's
toughie.
hard deciding.
That's a toughie. I know when I discovered the poetry, the first one that really grabbed me was A Dream Within a Dream.
Yeah.
And I was in high school. I had a pair of white sneakers, and I wrote one stanza of that on one sneaker and the other stanza on the other.
Oh,
And
nice.
when wore those shoes when I was in high school. That was probably the first one that I memorized.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and I love. You can't not love the Raven. I
Yeah.
mean that I have that one memorized. And honest to goodness, here's what a nerd I am. Every night before I go to sleep, I recite it in my head.
Oh,
Sometimes
wow.
I don't make it very far before I fall asleep,
Yeah.
but I don't want to lose it. So
That's a great way to do it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes I'll kind of doze off a little and wake up and go, oh, where was I with it? And it's all, I don't say it out loud. It's just in my head, but I don't want to lose it.
Yeah. No,
So yeah, the Raven it's perfection.
it is. It
Perfection.
absolutely is. Well, we have so much enjoyed talking to you. I think we could probably talk for hours and hours and
Oh, I
hours.
could go on and on. I'm sure you could too.
Oh, yes, I know. And but we yeah, I'm hoping that we will be able to connect and maybe if not Ohio later in June, definitely at the Poe Fest. We will have a booth there. We're going to be a
Yeah,
vendor
yeah.
again,
I
and
cannot wait
so
to see you there, and
yes,
a lot of other
yes,
folks. It's been a couple years since I've been, and I've roped Levi. He's a good friend of mine
yes. Oh,
from Rhode
Levi's
Island.
awesome. Hmm.
We love him. I told him he has to come this year. He has no
He's
choice.
got to.
We were
Yes.
supposed to go to Sullivan's Island this year, and he wasn't able to. I did, but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
I saw your pictures. Yeah,
yeah,
I've been. I loved finding all the gold bug things there. It was
yeah. It was
great.
pouring down rain when I went, so there were
Oh
still some things
no.
we didn't get to see.
Okay.
But of
Okay.
course, we ate at Poe's Tavern, and
Yeah,
did all
that's
that. And
fun.
the funny thing is, this was part of my trip with Everwalk. We started in South Carolina, just my husband and I on our own, and
Okay.
then the Everwalk was in North Carolina. I was um, at Victoria's house, and she says, or one of her neighbors actually says, there's a Poe restaurant right near us. I was aware of this other Poe place, Poe House, or no, what's it called? I
I'm
can't
trying to
remember
think.
now.
I learned it from you from seeing your
Yeah,
posts, and
but it was just like
I
what, and
didn't
it's
know
like
about that one.
it's like 5 or 6 minutes from her house. This
Wow.
other this other Poe restaurant, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I knew of it, but I did not know where it was. I didn't have it in my head at all, and yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I
Oh
seek
my
out
goodness.
anything and everything.
Yeah, it sounds
It's
like you're a lot like me in that regard because I try to find something everywhere of some, a connection somehow.
hmm
So,
it's funny because I scoured anything I could find with any connection between Poe and Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he never lived in Ohio, but I did find out that his mother-in-law did for a short amount of time after his death.
Okay.
He
Mm-hmm.
was kind of moving around from place to place.
Yeah.
And there was a young lady who wanted to write a biography of Poe.
Okay.
And he was wanting to dispel some of the crap that Griswold wrote about him.
Yes. Yes.
And so she had actually struck up a friendship with Sarah Helen Whitman. And
Okay.
she also, was getting some materials from her, and she invited Mariah, tomato,
Yeah.
tomato, however you say
Yeah.
it,
Oh, yeah.
to her home. And this was in a town called Putnam, Ohio. Well, I looked
Okay.
all over the place. There's no Putnam, Ohio. And I'm thinking,
Oh,
I mean, I got this from the Edgar Allan Poe Baltimore, Society of Baltimore site. So I'm
yeah.
thinking, gotta be legit. Well, I found
Yeah.
out Putnam no longer exists. It got
Okay.
kind of merged into Zanesville. So I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe there's some connection. Maybe this house is still there. Maybe
Yeah.
there's something. Well, the more I dug into it, this young lady who was going to write the biography, her name is Sally Robbins,
Okay.
found out that shortly after Maria arrived at her home, she kind of went insane and was put up in an asylum. And
Oh,
so
wow.
the biography was never written. At some point, she moved to New York, and then she was in Toronto for a little bit. She
Mm-hmm.
moved back to Ohio at the age of 32 and died. And I
Wow.
cannot find what happened to her. I tried.
Interesting.
I've been trying to locate a grave, and the
Mm-hmm.
historical society guy I've been corresponding with thinks that maybe because she was in an insane asylum, they wanted to sweep it under the rug, you know.
Yes.
So she
Yes.
may be in an unmarked grave. But the really crazy thing is, Levi, all the way in Rhode Island, where
Yeah.
Sarah Helen Whitman lived,
Mm-hmm.
very big into researching her, he
Mm-hmm.
obtained a book of her poems that she had once loaned to my Sally. And it's
Oh,
described not only by Sally, but also by Sarah Helen Whitman. And it just
nice.
really struck me and him both that here we are all these years later, this guy in Rhode Island who is devoted to finding out more about Sarah Helen Whitman has
Yeah.
befriended this Ohio gal who
Yeah.
was who's researching someone who was friends with a Rhode Islander years ago, and he now
Wow.
owns this book that tied both of them together.
That
And
is
it
wild.
it is wild. It is, and it's
Oh,
crazy. And when I met with him, he does these tours of
yeah. I've done it.
Providence. I think he's
Yes.
done. I
Yeah.
was there when he was. I kind of went on his first tour
Okay.
to kind of, he was kind of testing it out, working out the bugs. And as we were wrapping up and saying our goodbyes, I swear to you, a raven flew over us.
Oh, wow.
And my son and I both heard it and knew instantly what it was. I don't think
Yeah.
Levi was aware. I answer nature questions for him all the time.
Yeah.
I do that for everybody. My favorite question is, "Hey Mel, what's this?" So anyway, not only was this raven flying over us, it was going in the direction of Sarah Helen Whitman's house.
Oh, that is even
Now, does that
more
not give you
insane.
chills? Isn't
Yes.
that great?
I
Ah,
love stories like that. That is so awesome.
yeah. So that's the big thing with me. It's been finding these people who are just as
Hmm.
passionate about Poe as I am. I found my tribe, and
Yeah,
there's nothing better than that.
I
And
I
I just
agree.
I get so much joy from it. So
Yeah.
I'm thrilled that you guys invited me on to do this today.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
It's just contagious in my mind. I get
Yeah,
excited about it, and I can tell other people do. And
yeah.
it's just, he's such a fascinating person.
I know. I
There's
know.
nothing
And
to
left
get
us
old.
a legacy that
Oh,
to me forevermore he will
hmm.
be. I see in 200 years we won't be here, but he will be. That
Oh
people
yeah.
will still be talking about him.
I just hope in some way he has an inkling of
Yeah.
what he means to everyone. I
Yeah.
mean, he needed that so bad while he was alive, and didn't get
Didn't
much of it.
I know that
And
that affirmation would have been done him so well for who know, because again, we don't know for those couple of days, like what really went on. It's
Mhm.
like he needed that affirmation
I
from,
think,
yeah,
I think just knowing that his works are taught in schools
yeah,
would just make him burst. I
I think
mean,
so too.
yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, well, Jeanie, any last thoughts?
Nope. I have what's the word? I have used up my vocabulary for
Oh, goodness.
yeah.
Yes.
So no, I am hoed out.
Okay, there you go. There you go. But
Oh,
not forever though. Just for now.
I'm just hoed out for now.
Yes.
bet.
Well, Jeanie, are you ready? Again, thank you, Mel, so much for joining us.
My
Because
pleasure. Thanks
this
for
has
having me.
been awesome talk with
Yeah,
you.
it's
Jeanie, are you ready?
I'm ready. We are
Ho out.
out.